I'm Jessica Rogers. I am leading this chat this morning. I'm delighted to be here. I'm a career and leadership coach, and I work with people to find and do work that really matters to them, which then enables them to live a life that they absolutely love. And it's great to be here to have this discussion with Natalie and Louise, all about kindness and career. You know, we're all living in uncertain times, and in one way or another, our work has been affected. And now more than ever, it's important that we are, most importantly, kind to ourselves and kind to ourselves in the way that we work. So I'm going to kick off today and start by asking Natalie and Louise to introduce yourselves. But before we do that, it's just to let you all know that the chat is open. So if you have any questions as we go through, please do type them in the chat, and we'll answer them towards the end. Okay, so shall we start with you, Natalie?
Good morning, everyone, and thanks, Jess, for the intro. I'm really excited to have this conversation because most of my career has been built on purpose, and I spend a lot of time talking about being nice and being kind, both to ourselves and to other people. My current job is CEO of Blue Water, but I've spent the last 10 years at least running my own businesses. I started my own business, or my first business, when I was 19, and at 21 in my last year of university, I opened a Morgan clothing franchise. So anyone that remembers the heart logo, Morgan store, yeah, Morgan girls, I had one of those. And just to say from the outset, I am sitting in my hallway whilst some activity goes on in my flat, because I would not choose this sort of decor behind me.
We'll let you off. Thank you very much, Natalie. Louise?
Hi there. I'm so excited to be on this experience. I started off my career as a blogger and YouTuber, and then over the course of 11 years now, that's really taken off and become an actual full-time job and career, and I have a team of staff as well. And what started from just something I really enjoyed to do in the evenings has become something that I enjoy to do 24/7. So I make content about motherhood and lifestyle. I also have 5 best-selling books and a podcast, and do some work on television as well. And in the last 2 years, I've really felt a shift from being very, very digital to being a little bit more traditional media, which has been lovely to see the way that media is changing. And I feel like media is collaborating a lot more than it did maybe 6 years ago. So I feel so honoured and so excited that Hello Magazine have involved me in this. And I'm really excited to hear more about your journeys, because I think of you guys as like proper career women, and I'm sort of someone that just had a hobby that went really well, and now I'm like, oh, now I have to do the business side as well as my hobby side. So I'm looking forward to learn from both of you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Louise. So it's great to hear that you've both kind of taken control of your careers, and you're doing things that you love and making the difference that you really want to make. And it sounds like in doing that, living on purpose as well, which in itself is a kind gesture for yourself. So I'm just curious, just to start, maybe if we can start with you, Louise. You know, how are you finding work in these current challenging times?
Yes, thank you. So big changes for our industry, but then also we're probably one of the most prepared industries for it, because we do so much of our whole lives are digital. So we were already quite comfortable with screens and this kind of at-home setup. At the beginning, all of the brands and businesses that we work with, that we have sort of brand partnerships with, were a little bit shaky, understandably. In March, April and May, a lot of them delayed any of their work or just pulled out of it, which was really nerve-wracking. I look back now and think, oh, it was fine. Like, it all picked up in the summer, but obviously the hindsight is 2020. Excuse the 2020 pun. And it was a really frightening time, because you had the news saying this is going to be a year, this is going to be terrible, and you think, you forecast ahead and think, can my business survive a year? But fortunately for the social media industry, it didn't have to, and it's all picked back up. And we've just found new ways of doing things like this. For example, this last year, we would have all been in London, sat on a small stage with a glass of water next to us, and we would have had a chat in a green room. But instead, I DM'd you both to be like, looking forward to meeting you. So I think that we have adapted. The challenges, the biggest challenge, I think, has actually been, the phrase, read the room. So it's very difficult to know what's the exact right thing to serve your audience, who are also your customer base. Because on one hand, they want a lot of positivity and they want an escape and a break from maybe some of the hard things that are really happening IRL. But on the other hand, you want to be sensitive to, the family who's just, the dad's been made redundant and mum's lost her job and children don't have a nursery place. And you don't want to be like, hey guys, just bought this fab new top online, because that's not what they want to hear. So it's been really, really difficult to work out like what the level is and to get that right. And when you don't get it right, to immediately apologise and deal with that effectively. So I'm hoping that next year is just a little bit more chill.
Yeah. So hearing that you've had to adapt, you've had to,
yes,
or maybe more on a day-to-day basis almost, read what's going on and react to a certain extent to that, as opposed to having this beautiful plan which you then execute. And but at the same time, you're still able to serve your audience in a way that's authentic to you, but also giving them something as well and adding some value to what they're going through as well.
We hope so. We try to, but adaptation has definitely been a big thing this year, and a front of house in terms of what we're giving out to an audience, but also my team. Usually I'm with them every day, but now I still have the office, but not so much. We kind of go maybe one day a week separately, so we're all in at different times. So yeah, it's been a changing year, and I think that we've learned a lot from it.
What about you, Natalie? What have you found most challenging during this time?
So right now, I think the context for a lot of this is that when you're building a career or a life you love, there's a lot of things that, for me, ultimately merge together. So I don't think about my career and I don't think about my home life. It's just, I have one life. Being locked down, home has suddenly become work, and work has become home, and you've been invited into people's homes and spaces, and the sorts of things that people would be mortified by. I think, if everyone cast their mind back to the BBC interview and the young child that runs in while the expert's giving the interview, it was big news. Now that's just standard everyday activity. And if it's not a child, it's a cat or it's a dog, or it's the electrician walking past the screen, or it's a neighbour coming up the stairs because you're sitting in your hallway doing a panel. The challenges are that we're having to be okay and uncomfortable with all of the things that would have embarrassed the hell out of us a year ago. And how do you do that in the moment? And I think everyone has just gone, do you know what? Let's just relax. Let's just take this, every panel, every conversation, every work Zoom, every work Teams hangout at a time. And for me personally, I joined Baloo on the 2nd of March. We went into lockdown 3 weeks later. So I only ever met my team once in person. And so to build a business and a culture and take a business through a crisis, having never really engaged with people from an emotional level in person, that home coming to people directly through a screen became really important, because they got a sense of who I am, how I operate, and I got a sense of who they are in a far more intimate way. And so the challenge becomes actually a really beautiful thing, in that I know them so much more because of all of the things I see behind them, and the home life becoming part of the swirl of work. So challenges that flow into opportunities, I guess, is the summary.
Yeah, that's so, you've really hit the nail on the head there, that this whole time has been it's been a great leveler, hasn't it? There's no facade actually, and whilst we all want to show up as professional, and particularly for you in your position as CEO of Blue Water, you want to put that professional face on, particularly when you first go in, you want to create an impression, but actually what I'm hearing is that you can still create that impression, but you're creating it from an even more authentic place. And also you're all on that, it really is that level playing field that you're all coming from, because you're all in your home environments, and you're all doing your work and doing your work well, but you're doing it from a different place. That's wonderful.
And I think just to build on that, I think everyone cast their minds back to March and April. I think we were probably doing our meetings dressed in work attire. By June, I have not left Lycraville, and it's okay now. I meet my team and, my hair has, not been washed for a week, or I've just come back from the gym and I'm totally sweaty and I'm like, I haven't been in the shower yet. Like that, the sorts of things that you just wouldn't have put out there. That's changed for everyone, and I have spoken to really senior people that are sitting there just in a hoodie, and they're like, yeah, because I'm at home. Why am I gonna put on a shirt and a tie to have this conversation? And so it is a great leveler, and I think people are now allowed to just be their authentic selves and wear grey sweats under the really lovely blouse, and wear slippers and be comfortable, and all of the things that we were just talking about before this started.
Yeah, I think you're right. I definitely noticed over the summer with my clients that it was almost like it was, if you had an early morning meeting, to come to the meeting, as you say, in sweats, whatever, it was like, I've had a morning walk, or I've had a morning workout. And that was a good thing, because that was demonstrating I'm looking after myself in what is a really difficult time. So that was great. That's brilliant. And so just a question to both of you, really. What have you learned about yourself? Like, if there were some really specific things that you'd learned about yourself that you didn't know before, that you knew, but you've learned it differently, or unlearn about yourself in this time and in the way that you work, what would you say that would be?
Shall I jump on? I don't know if mine is a good one or a bad one. I think it's just neutral. I've learned that I was going too fast in 2019, sorry. And at the time, whilst I live in Northampton, which is about an hour and 10 minutes north of London. And I was coming to London 2 or 3 times a week. I would do a whole day, and then I'd be like, since I'm here, I'm going to do an evening event as well, because I may as well make the most of it. I'd get home at midnight. I'd be up again at 7 with my children. At 8, I would be on messages to my team, like, what are we doing today? Then I'd be filming. Then it was just so much. And in 2019, I thought, this is what success looks like. I'm successful because I'm exhausted. And because I'm so tired, that's a currency of my success, because I've worked hard. I've worked harder than anybody else because I'm more tired than anybody else, which means I'm at the very top because I'm doing well because I'm tired. And it was just this really vicious circle of, if I wasn't tired, if I had a weekend where I just chilled out with my children, took them to the park, did a bit of food shopping, I was like, oh, I've really not achieved much. I've wasted this weekend. I've wasted time. This hasn't been a high value day. And then 2020 happened, and suddenly everything just stopped. And I, on a personal level, in sort of March and April, there was a lot going on in my personal life, as well as the pandemic, as well as work. And I just sort of crashed a little bit, and it's just like, I can't actually do all this. I physically can't. There's too much going on. Unfortunately, I had really great people around me that kept everything ticking over. And then come sort of August time, and I was like, oh yeah, okay, like Phoenix from the ashes, but not very regal, more just like, here I am. And now I think, well, hang on a second, if we look at things, I still feel like my life is good. I'm really happy with my family and my job. And success is different now. Success is, my heart doesn't race really fast where I have to go, am I okay? And I don't feel exhausted. And revenue is down on last year, but we're in a pandemic, and I haven't had as much fun as I thought I was having last year, but I've been really happy, and my children are really happy, and my relationship with my fiance is really strong. I'm like, oh, maybe this is success. So I think I've learned to put value in different areas and to appreciate that more.
So you've redefined, it sounds like, what you see as success.
Yeah, I hope I can carry that into 2021 and 22, and I don't one day think, I've done it again. Didn't I learn anything? What am I doing?
So staying aware and conscious of that as well. And
I hope so.
Success changes, or your measure of success changes, and that's okay.
Yeah.
I'm just curious as well, just hearing what you were saying about you would be in London 2 or 3 times a week, and then you do an evening event and come back. So have you learned different ways perhaps to juggle life, with the kids, with the business, with yourself? Have you learned any different things around that?
Yes, definitely. So last year I thought that it's really important to go to absolutely everything in London that you can, to meet people and to have those connections and communication with people and build those relationships. But this year, because we've all been in the same boat, and I don't think I could have done it if we hadn't all been on the same playing field, it's just been, there's different ways that you can connect with people, like this, for example. Or I went to I literally sat just here, like my laptop is propped up on an ironing board, and down here I've got like my kids' Christmas shopping just there. So I went to an event in my bedroom for Ruth Langsford. She was celebrating 3 years of having her clothing collection. And before I would have been like, I must leave my house, I have to leave 2 hours earlier and blah, blah, blah. And they sent afternoon tea here. And I had my laptop up and we had this Zoom and we were all having afternoon tea. And I just thought, I haven't done 4 hours of travel to get to the south of London. And when this is finished, I'm going to shut my laptop and I'm going to go and pick up my daughter from school and ask her what she did today and all of those things. So I really do miss being around people. But if I could design it, I'd have it be sort of like 60-40. So 60% back with people, but 40%, I will maybe ask myself, do we need to have an event for this? For a meeting, for example, that's not broadcast to lots of people, if it's just a meeting with some producers or whatever, I might say, shall we just have a Zoom? Because I think they would like that more as well. And my dad, for example, runs, I know I'm waffling, I'll cut this short in a minute. My dad runs a production company where they film business-to-business videos. And he usually had to send his producer and director out to America to shoot these things, which is where they do it. And then they have a crew over there. But he is saving so much money in his business because now his producer and director direct over Skype or Zoom. They plug the cameras in and they have this big setup where they can see all the camera angles. And for him, it's great because he gets to be involved in the process. He can go into his office and say, camera 3, such and such. They're saving money. People are having more time with their families. And that must have a positive effect on everyone if we're getting home for dinner in time. And it's so, last year would have been, it's so antiquated to get home for dinner on time. I don't need to do that. But I like that now. I like having dinner with my family most of the time.
There's a kindness in being connected, being connected in the way that you want to be connected, not just with work, but with your family and those outside of work as well.
Yeah.
What about for you, Natalie? What have you learned or unlearned?
Well, so I agree with a lot of what Louise said. I probably started my slow down sooner, and I'm someone that I need to be in bed by 10 o'clock. I like to sit down and have dinner with myself or friends, and so and as an introvert I couldn't maintain the pace of being with lots of people. So the thing that I learned about myself is what's the right balance for me. As when lockdown hit, I think there was 2 months where I didn't see anyone, and then all of my single friends that live locally, we started to say we need to create our own bubble. So we'd go on runs together. And it felt like I was more present in the whole process of being with my friends versus pre-lockdown. Actually, everyone would be out, but we'd also be talking about the thing that we were doing next, whereas there was no next. The next day was actually just the same thing. And I became okay in doing the same thing every single day. And there was a comfort in the familiarity of doing the same thing every single day. And I didn't think that I was comfortable with repetition and the same thing happening, but actually going for a run every day, knowing what time lunch is, knowing that I was seeing a friend in the garden, those sorts of things became really comforting. And that's definitely been a lesson of this for me, and one that I want to maintain, exactly as you said, Louise. It's about maintaining it when the world goes back to whatever our new version of normal is. How do we keep those moments that have actually probably been the most kind from a personal place?
It sounds like there's something about being really present and giving yourself permission to be really present without worrying about where perhaps it was previously where you want to be present, but there's so much else going on. But now everybody's forced to be present, and there's a kindness in that to your relationships as well.
Yeah. And, you know, this conversation is about kindness. I think the other word is, you know, the beauty of life. Does everyone remember the summer days? You'd open the window and you hear the birds in a way that you would never heard the birds before. I'd never heard the birds before. And every morning I was like, oh, they're just singing to me. This is lovely. And it was so quiet, and something that it's not right now. I don't know what's going on in my flat, but it's noisy. Yeah. So, you know, I think it's about trying to find those moments again, and finding the quiet and finding those beautiful moments, and that it just means that our lives become just kind and beautiful by default, as opposed to us being forced into it because of a pandemic.
Absolutely. And when you both were talking about maintaining what you've created as well, and I'm hearing there's something about boundaries, because something I've definitely heard from my clients is that at first there was a blurring of the lines between work and home. Perhaps for some people didn't work because they felt like they were constantly 24 hours a day, they were on because they had work at home. But actually there's something about that doesn't necessarily have to be a negative thing if you can create the right boundaries so that you can have home and have work, but also pick out the things that are really working for you and maintain those things so that you create, I hate the expression, but you create your own new normal with the right boundaries, with the right juggling, and also with the right connection and staying connected in the way that you really want to stay connected. Yeah. Fantastic. So I'm just going to, before we carry on, I just want to check if anybody who's any of our attendees here, if you have any questions, do please remember to pop them into the chat, because myself, Natalie and Louise would love to hear from you. And we already had somebody with a thumbs up and an agreement that lockdown has definitely allowed us to bring our whole selves to work. And you know, it's echoing what you've both said. And I think what I'm definitely hearing wider around, you know, what's going on with lockdown. So I just wonder from both of you, you know, in terms of your work and in terms of how you are operating differently, specifically within your industry, or, you know, can you see some changes within your industry that you specifically see as kind and you see as good and something that will be good to continue going forward? Natalie?
Yeah, so, you know, when lockdown first started, I think the hospitality industry mobilised around feeding the NHS, but also, you know, as individuals, we started to wonder about our neighbour. You know, does my neighbour have enough food? Does the older lady that lives across the road, has anyone checked in to see if she's okay? And now with the half term, actually mobilising to say, well, let's feed the kids that don't have breakfast, lunch and dinner as we do. And so there's been, going back to the word beauty, there's been a thing of people just realizing there's more than just me, there's more than just my immediate family. Actually, let me care about my neighbors and my neighborhood and do something that you know, I would have done if I wasn't so busy. And the busyness of life means that we don't always think about what other people need. Being able to pause meant that we had more capacity and space to help someone else. And it made us feel great to help, which is why I think we saw the outpouring around you know, just everything. Everyone was, you know, giving money and doing as much as they could. So I think that's been the positive thing in the hospitality industry. The flip side has been that we ultimately have an industry that's had to totally adapt to the way that they are operating, so being outside, a lot more, small restaurants that didn't have outside space or coverage have now set up outdoor terraces, and they have, I guess, embraced the sort of the European outside dining culture, which again, I don't know if, for you, Louise or Jess, I love being outside, and I don't mind being outside with a blanket and a heater keeping me warm. But it's not, that's a totally different cultural way, I think, for lots of people that were out and dining. So we've seen that, we've seen people or the industry adapt in that way. And I think everyone from a supply chain perspective has been kinder. We haven't got onto payments, but if you're a freelancer joining us, or you're someone running a business, I think everyone's thought about paying their suppliers on time and making sure that money is flowing, or having very honest conversations about money and finances, to ensure that the businesses that we went into lockdown with are still there on the other side. And that's been a really powerful thing.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think there's definitely a recognition that, we all have a part to play to make this work, what is a difficult situation work. And I think what you're saying about suppliers paying on time, I'm definitely seeing an uplift in that, which is fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Thank you. What about you, Louise? What are you noticing in your industry?
So I've noticed that, so on a business side, I've noticed that we have all realised that we don't need as much faff as we thought we did. So the few shoots that I have done, much less than last year, but there's been much less people on set, whether that's a photo shoot for a magazine or it's a filming shoot for a segment on something. Before, and for me it's great, because before I used to get so nervous, there'd be 10, 20 people in the room, and I think I only know 3 people here, and one of them's my makeup artist who's in my face, and the other 2 is the director that I just met and the camera person, that's it, and then all these other people. But now all those other people have gone, and I don't know if that's a good thing, because I hope that they're okay and that they're still found different ways to work. But I found there's a lot less just fanfare, and everything still works and it's still okay. And I don't think it's sustainable. I think we're making do and making it work, and I don't think we'll be like this forever. But I wonder if we will go back up to the same level of, well, we need 4 runners, and people, I don't need a runner, get my own drinks, it's absolutely fine. And I think that it's leveled everyone a little bit more as well. So when you go, for me specifically, when I go to an event or a shoot or something like that, no one's more special than anyone else. We're all just making it work together. And I really like that, because I feel uncomfortable with that unspoken hierarchy of things. I like that it's just kind of everyone just mucking in and getting things done. And because we're not, I know this goes slightly into home life, but for me, like Natalie said, my whole life just is my life. Because I'm not traveling all the time, because I'm not feeling that level of exhaustion, I've got more time for the people around me. I've got to know my neighbours this year. For VE Day, everyone came out and sat at the end of their gardens, and I had chats with Wendy, who lives 4 doors down, who I've never had a conversation with before, and I've lived here 3 years, and that I feel has really enriched my life and made me happier. And then when I come online to do my online bits, I'm giving a better version of myself, because I'm not just this half-charged flesh sack. I'm like, hi, I'm a well person. Hello.
So I want to jump in on that. So just an amazing thing that happened on my road. I've lived in Kensal Rise probably for 8-9 years, and I have heard someone play the violin, I thought badly, for 8-9 years at 7:30 a.m. in the morning, and I would curse them at the weekend and be like, who is this person playing the violin? And I didn't realize I lived next to a family that play in a globally renowned orchestra, and they did a performance outside the house, and my immediate neighbor also plays the violin, so we had a cellist and violinist, and all of the neighbors came out and socially distanced, and I sat outside my front door on a stool with a glass of wine and had a proms performance. And now when I hear them play, I go, oh, it's my wonderful neighbour and who played. And I spent 8 years lambasting this person in my mind for playing. And it's just the small things that actually, you know, it's now not an annoyance. I appreciate the beauty of what they did in that moment for everyone on the road. So really small example, but that's the upside. That's the kindness that's come through.
Yeah, and it's not a small example because we're all having those. So collectively, that will be such a huge national example. We now have a WhatsApp group for our road, and it's lovely because the other day someone messaged say, oh, they're doing gas works on Thursday, so you won't be able to turn left at the bottom, and just those sorts of things. I'm like, this is nice. This is community. I spend my whole life building a digital community. That's what I've been doing for 11 years. I love it dearly. But now I'm like, I've actually got a real community as well. And it's lovely.
And that's great for our well-being, for our mental well-being, our emotional well-being, our spiritual well-being, like what you're describing, Natalie, you know, hearing you, being able to sit on your doorstep and listen to beautiful music, you know, that can only be a good thing for your you know, your physical, your physiological well-being as well. And that's just wonderful. It's so great to hear, it really is. So we have a question. Somebody's asking, how do you set work hours from home? I'm finding it really hard to log off at the end of the day.
I wish I had some good advice for this, but I don't. So I would like to ask the question too, because sometimes I find last night at 11:30, I was looking for a top for a Zoom thing next week. And I was like, why am I doing this now? I could just do this tomorrow, but I'm addicted to it. I really enjoy it. So I don't have any advice. I'm the worst person. I'll sit back.
It's different if you're really enjoying it or if you're feeling under pressure to do it. And there's the difference, isn't there, actually?
Yeah.
Natalie?
I have switch off rituals. So usually involve some red wine at the moment. But I pour a glass of wine, or I make a cocktail and I start making dinner, or I schedule in a call with a friend, or I have been looking at interior swatches, or just something that isn't work, and I start doing it about 5:30, 6 o'clock. And that just eases me into a different mindset. And I think you have to, if you're not good at just switching off automatically, you need to give yourself another task. So find another task that brings you enjoyment, that maybe hopefully moves you away from the screen into a different space, because I find it's the screen that then becomes the thing that you stay on. And if I've got friends that don't have TVs, and so they've been watching TV on their laptop, so they finish a day of Zoom, watching TV on the laptop, it's very easy to slide back into the inbox, or very easy to say, oh, let me just finish writing that report. And so it's doing the things that move you out of work zone, out of workspace, into I am relaxed, I am now doing something that's looking after me, and I do not touch my laptop at the weekend. So it goes in a corner, away out of sight, and there is no engagement with my laptop until possibly Sunday evening if I want to prep for the week, or first thing Monday. But you have to be strict to make it work, especially given everything is now work, life, home.
You're absolutely right. It's creating those rituals, isn't it? And it's building, they have to become new habits, because it's easy for the habit, as you say, to become, you work on the laptop and then you watch TV on the laptop, or then you do something else that's on the laptop. So it's that every day saying, right now it's 5:30, I'm going to switch that off and put it in the corner. And they do say it takes 21 days for a habit to become normal. So you have to force yourself to do it every single day. And I love what you say about putting your laptop away at the weekend. I think we can all definitely learn from that.
Yeah.
So somebody's thanking us all for being so open and sharing with us. Whilst this pandemic or lockdown has been a horrible time, I believe we have all really put things into perspective and see what is truly important. Absolutely, couldn't agree more, and there's some agreement there. And then another question. This year there has been an emphasis on community. If you want to reach out to a new group of people, a sisterhood or a mentor or mentee, etc., but fear rejection, what's the best approach? Natalie?
Well, I was just going to say, Albright, it's a network, it's a sisterhood of women meeting in a space. There's an online community. We did a summit with Albright in June for women in the hospitality and food and beverage industries. And so go to a space where people are already open. That's the first stage if you want to build up your confidence in finding mentors or finding inspiration. But equally, I think more people have reached out to me on social media. And because I have actually been available and on, I've looked into my messages and I've responded to things. And at the moment, I don't have the capacity to be a mentor to anyone. But I've just said, look, if there's a question that you want to ask me, just ask. Here's my email address. I can, send you some thoughts, send you some links. And so maybe don't ask for everything. Just ask for the one thing that's really important, and that starts to build a relationship with people. But I find that a lot of people are very responsive. And if it's not Instagram, LinkedIn, which is obviously more of a work-focused platform, use the platforms that are there, because I think given we are all in front of our screens for a lot more time, people are engaging and coming back in support of others.
I love that. Ask for the one thing that's really important. Don't ask for everything as a starting point. That's great advice. What about you?
I really like that advice as well. I much prefer it when people are direct. Just, hey, this is the thing that I want. The one, this will sound a bit negative, but hopefully everyone listening could use it. The one thing that little bit makes me want to smash my face on my keyboard, and I realise it's coming from a really polite place, but I'm just like, is when people say, hey, can I pick your brains? I just think, no, please don't, because I just want you to tell me what one thing you want to pick and I'll give it to you. But I don't want you to pick all, because no. I feel like my brain's in a million places. So my like very niche advice would be, don't ever start with, can I pick your brains, but start with, hey. So this is on Instagram for me, is where I get the most of my communication from people. And I'll just have DMs being like, hey, I always think start with a compliment. That's what I would do, is like, hey, I love what you talked about at such and such. I just wanted to ask X, Y, Z. Thanks so much if you have the time. Really admire what you do. And then make it like little compliment to butter someone up, what you want, end it nicely. And I just think, oh, that's lovely. That's my little go in when I want to ask someone something. And if they don't respond, never take it as a personal rejection. I can promise you that in 11 years, I've never seen something and thought, no, don't like her, don't like him, absolutely not going to respond. It makes me sad that I can't respond to everyone. It really is a time thing, or maybe a mental health thing, or maybe just someone doesn't know the answer, but it's not a rejection of you. It's just a limitation that they have. We all have our limits. So please don't ever walk away and think, well, I'm not going to try. I'm not going to ask the next person, or I'm not going to try the next thing because I'll be rejected again. You haven't been rejected. It's just, unfortunately, that person might have reached their capacity that day, week, month, etc.
That's good, great advice as well. That don't always take it personally. And I like the structure that you've given. Yeah. We're going to have loads of people sliding into your DMs now, and we're buttering you up. Their question.
I like to be buttered up.
Somebody's just said, switch off rituals, genius. Thank you. I'm going to try and implement some next week. So that's great. That's really great to hear. So listen, we're coming to the end now. We've only got a few more minutes. So what I'd love from you both is a top tip for career kindness. So you've given us some great strategies that you're using and things that you've learned. But if there was one top tip that you could give that's carried you through, that you want to carry forward for career kindness, what would that be? Who would like to go first?
Louise, do you want to go first? Or?
Oh no, because I feel like you're going to give a much better answer than me. So I thought I'll wait till Natalie does her really good answer, and then I'll build on that. That was my strategy for that. For career kindness, I'm so fortunate that my career really does meld so wonderfully into my whole life, which I personally like. I know some people don't. And I think that it would just be to take, when you feel, like when you're feeling angry or ratty or just really exhausted, take a step back before you react to something. I'm the kind of person where if something goes wrong or someone's made a mistake, my inside personal reaction is to be like, "Argh," about it. But you can't at people, because that doesn't get you anywhere. They feel demoralized, they feel rubbish, you come across not very well. So it's to just take some time, put some time before your reaction, whether that's 5 minutes or a whole day or a whole week, just to come back to it fresher and with more compassion. My partner told me this great little, is it like analogy or metaphor, where he said there was a man wearing a coat and the sun and the wind had a bet to see who could get the man to take his coat off quicker. And the wind said, I can blow that off really easily. So the wind blew and blew, but the man just held his coat round more and the sun shone and it was so lovely and the man took his coat off. So be the sun and not the wind, and you will get a lot further.
Be the sun and not the
So I'm going to build on that.
Damn it, that's my strategy.
And just, kindness starts with yourself. If you're not kind to yourself, there's no way that you have the capacity to hold in the frustration that you sometimes want to share. So be kind to yourself, look after yourself first, and you'll be able to be kind to other people and deliver that throughout everything you're doing in your career.
That's lovely. And I just wanted to, if I want to add one, if I may, is to remember to take time to reflect, because it's really important to reflect on what's gone well and also what you've learned, what's not gone so well, but what you've learned from that. So take some time to reflect and recognise what you're capable of as well, because that helps you to face whatever storms, whatever wind might come your way, but also helps you to bask more in the sunshine when it comes to.
You smashed that roundup. That was beautiful. That was a really nice roundup.
You throw it to me and I'll batten back. Thank you so much for being here today. I've really enjoyed this conversation. It's great to learn from you both about being kind and the kindness in your career and beauty. I love the beauty as well, Natalie. So thank you for bringing that to the fore. So I hope you enjoy the rest of your day and have a wonderful weekend. And yeah, enjoy the rest of the Hello Summit. And thank you everybody for joining us today, and do enjoy the rest of today and have a wonderful, kind day.
Thank you so much for having us. Bye.